I can cover ISAs in particular.
Yeah.
So for people over the age of 65, no change. They were kind of exempt from the changes to ISAs. People under the age of 65, we're going to see the change take place that the cash ISA allowance is going to be reduced from £20,000 down to £12,000 a year. And the intention is to essentially force you to invest into the markets. And one of the reasons was, which I ultimately agree with if we're talking about longer term savings, is that the market should outperform cash and historically has outperformed cash over the longer term. So if you do put 8,000 of your 20,000, i.e. the difference, into an ISA, into a stocks and shares ISA, it should do better.
Yeah.
But taking away the choices is unfortunate. So the idea will be going forwards, £12,000 cash ISA allowance, the rest £8,000 into stocks and shares ISAs. We can of course tinker, so you can do 10 and 10. It just means you can't go beyond 12 for cash ISAs. We also saw the lifetime ISA get scrapped. So it was a bit of a gimmick anyway, in that the idea was, young people can't afford houses, we'll throw them a bone, lifetime ISA, help to buy ISA. People weren't making much out of it anyway, but it was still a nice gesture. They've scrapped that, and again, consultation, but early 2026 they will be looking to put forward the replacement of the lifetime ISA. We'll see what that is. As it stands, if you've got a lifetime ISA, you've accumulated the bonuses, they're fine, they're intact, they're still there. As it stands, we're on course that you can continue to pay into a lifetime ISA, but subject to this consultation, hopefully in the next few months. But they were the two major changes with regards to ISAs. We've seen with savings, not for good reasons, we've seen inflation be hiked hugely over the past 3 years, and consequently interest rates, which have been terrible for mortgages, good for cash. So, people who have paid off their mortgages or don't have mortgages, they've actually probably benefited overall. But cash interest rates have been favourable for quite a while. Now you can probably still get 4% and a bit in a high interest savings account, probably not the high street because they've got all of the customers, but the sort of secondary, still large banks, and feel free to reach out to me for suggestions on that. But we're still seeing high interest savings accounts available. The regular savers, you can tend to get a bit more as well, capped at like £200 a month, but you can get maybe around 6% a year in interest there. But we are seeing that there are additional taxes on savings as well. So that's going up, and the government will get a bit more in their pocket from that. But from a savings perspective, it's ISAs change, £12,000 if you're below age, cash ISA that is, below age 65, lifetime ISA to be removed. Normal cash savings still quite reasonably available in terms of a savings option. And there's premium bonds, which haven't changed, but that's the hybrid. If people don't want to put money into the markets and we're talking to them, sorry, I've touched my mic. If we're talking to them and we put money into cash ISA, and then they say, well, what else can I do that doesn't take investment risk? Usually it's premium bonds because they're also tax-free prize winnings, and it usually equates to an average that's competitive with interest rates, call it 3.5%, but you can check on the NS&I website to see what it is on the day.
Touching on the tax as well, we know from April 2027, so 27-28 tax year, the actual income tax rate on those is going up from 20% to 22%, and 40% and 42%. So the 2 percentage points on those, which is anything over and above your tax-free allowance. So basic rate earners, it's £1,000. Higher rate earners and above, it's £500. And you do get to a point where there is almost like a threshold where it's probably better to spend some money
rather than save it.
Than saving sort of thing, which again I suppose that's their way of trying to stimulate the
By
economy.
design, yes.
And it's Yeah.
And also thinking about the ISAs, then by restricting that cash ISA so that some has to go into shares if you want to use your full allowance, then actually investing in businesses, and I guess they'd hope that it's British business because then that would help stimulate growth here as well. So you can see how some of these, you can go full circle on it, can't you?
Yeah.
You can, and I had a similar conversation yesterday after the budget, because what it almost surprised me. I mean, last year there was talk about the British ISA, and I was unsure on what the outcome of that would be. Obviously, it didn't happen in the end.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see that they have pushed for a section of ISA allowance to be invested essentially by force, so that extra £8,000. But then you're still not probably going to invest in the UK very much. I mean, when we set up portfolios, traditional geographically spread portfolios, you try and make it proportionate to the global economy, and the UK is 5%-ish, so you've got 5% of your
5% of 8,000. It's not going to do anything spectacular, is it?
I mean, you look at the American markets and China and stuff like that. They are much better return than what our market is. I mean, it's, again, you kind of feel like with this budget, it's probably going to stifle our market even more. So we're going to end up with more offshore investment than we are actually in onshore. It's. Yeah,
but their point of overall the savings should grow more via investment is typically correct. So that could be a positive, and they, I guess by design, have made it so that if you're over 65, you're not affected because you're less likely to want/need to invest that money. You're perhaps more.
You're going to be more risk averse, aren't you, and more focused on the cash.
And also as well, certainly with the stocks and shares market, is the longer you leave it in that sector, the better it generally performs. You're not looking at 1-2 year return. You're looking at 5 to 10 years, and 65 and above. Yes, you'd hope to have another 10, 15 years ahead of you, but you can't always guarantee that. So
no, it would have been nice to see a hybrid of, because if someone comes to us to talk about investing, we're going to say if you're looking at saving for 5+ years, that's when it becomes reasonable to look at the markets, because there's long enough to endure the ups and downs and kind of get through to average upwards. But I'd have loved to have seen, if they were going to do this, that actually you could fix the cash ISA for 5 years, and then if it's above and beyond that, you can't. It's going into stocks and shares. That bit. Yeah. But if you want to save for 2 years, ready to buy a house, and you've been gifted 20k from your grandparents or something like that, you can't now put it into cash ISA, and you're not going to put it into the markets because it's not long enough to the risk goes up, and inexperienced investors will put that money in because the government's kind of told them to. And it's roulette 2 years of markets. You don't know what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
So, that would have been a nice hybrid. But I think in terms of just covering off, I guess, other financial planning aspects, there's the continuation of last year's budget, which is that pensions will be subject to part of the estate for inheritance tax purposes as of 2027, which again is a disappointment. It means that for people planning for inheritance tax, pensions have gone from one of, if not the best thing to do, to non-existent. You shouldn't do it for that purpose, and consequently we're looking at things like trusts and gifting and enjoying your money. Spend your money is the first one, but and then there are things like whole of life insurance, which is becoming a very thematic topic in our industry over the past 12 months. So I just thought it was worth mentioning now. And the idea is that you pay for a life insurance policy. It's called whole of life. It's going to cover the duration of your life, meaning that it will pay out. It's not for a set term, and then if you outlive it, it ceases. It's going to pay out, and the kind of maths behind it, which we do, is going to be, what is the premium? How much would that cost over your life expectancy? Okay, that's going to cost 150,000 in premiums between now and age 90, but the payout is £300,000, and it's exempt from inheritance tax because it's written into trust and so on. So there are different avenues that we will continue to explore for inheritance tax planning and investing. But as I say, the change is not welcome from our side, but not as bad as they could have been.
Yeah,